Today, we are diving deep into the mystical blueprint of reality itself. We're going to uncover a hidden architecture of light, of chaos, and find a secret roadmap to redemption that's been encoded in a single, absolutely beautiful verse.
So this right here, this enigmatic verse from the Song of Songs, this is our central mystery. Now, according to the Zohar, the foundational text of all Jewish mysticism, this is not just poetry. It's way more than that. It is a precise, four-stage cinematic sequence describing how the cosmos and, how we ourselves are redeemed. It's both a prophecy and a blueprint. Every single word, dawn, moon, sun, it's a key that unlocks a whole different level of reality.
To really understand redemption, to understand the end of the story, we have to go all the way back to the absolute beginning. I'm talking before time, before space itself. We need to look at the universe's foundational source code, which is described in one of the oldest, most mysterious texts out there, the Sefer Yetzirah, or the Book of Formation.
Okay, so according to the Sefer Yetzirah, the entire cosmos was designed and engraved into existence using a really specific number of tools. Not an infinite number, but 32. 32 wondrous paths of wisdom. And these aren't just, abstract ideas. They are the fundamental, quantifiable components of all reality. It's like the spiritual DNA from which literally everything is formed. So what are they?
Well, these 32 paths break down into two main categories. First, as you can see here, you've got the 10 Sephirot. The best way to think of these is as the 10 fundamental dimensions of divine expression, primal concepts like kindness, judgment, harmony, the stuff that forms the very scaffolding of reality. They're the architecture. Then you've got the other 22 paths, which are the Hebrew letters. In this system, they're not just symbols for sounds, oh no. They are the elemental building blocks, the vibrating frequencies of creation that God used to hue, combine, and form every single thing that exists or will ever exist.
So you'd think, right? A system built from pure divine wisdom, it's got to be perfect. But the Kabbalistic tradition, especially from the great 16th century mystic Isaac Luria, reveals a pretty shocking twist. The initial design of creation, it was inherently unstable. A great cosmic catastrophe happened, and understanding this crisis is absolutely key to figuring out why our world is so full of imperfection and struggle.
The whole process began with this cosmic paradox called Tzimtzum. See, in order to create a finite world, the infinite, all-encompassing divine light first had to make some room. So God, in a way, withdrew or contracted his own essence from a single conceptual point, which created a vacuum for existence to unfold. It is the ultimate act of self-limitation, all to allow for something other than himself to exist. So into this vacuum, God emanated his light through the 10 Sephirot, which were meant to act as vessels to channel this immense energy. But this is where the catastrophe happened. The initial vessels were just too fragile. They weren't interconnected. So when that intense, raw, divine light poured into them, they just couldn't handle the pressure. They overloaded, and they shattered. This event is known as Shivarat HaChakelim, the shattering of the vessels. The aftermath of this shattering is, well, it's the world we live in. The lower 7 Sephirot, the emotional ones, they broke completely. And this cosmic explosion created a universe of chaos. Holy divine sparks of light, called Nitzitzut, they fell down and became trapped inside the broken shards, which are called klipot, or the husks of impurity. This is the mystical origin of evil, of suffering. Good and evil became all mixed up, and the divine presence got hidden inside the fragments of a broken creation.
But the story does not end in chaos. The shattering wasn't some cosmic mistake. It was really just stage 1 of a much grander plan. Stage 2 is this monumental process of repair, a kind of cosmic re-engineering project designed to rebuild creation into something far more robust, far more perfected. This process is known as Tikkun.
Tikkun, or rectification, is the active process of fixing what was broken. It's the meticulous work of gathering up all those fallen sparks of holiness, sorting them out from the impure shards of the klipot, and completely re-architecting the cosmos into a new, stable configuration that can finally, safely, handle the full intensity of God's light.
And the engineering solution here is just brilliant. Tikkun doesn't just, glue the old pieces back together. It reconfigures them into totally new, dynamic, interconnected structures called partsufim, which literally means faces. Imagine complex interdependent systems where the Sephirot now work together, sharing the load, kind of like a robust electrical grid instead of a bunch of fragile, isolated light bulbs.
This new architecture can handle the divine energy without shattering.
And this brings us right back to our opening verse, that cinematic sequence of light. Dawn, then moon, then sun. It is the perfect metaphor for how Tikkun actually unfolds. See, redemption isn't a single event. It's a staged, multi-phase revelation of light, slowly but surely healing our shattered reality.
So let's look at these 4 phases. First, there's the dawn, just a faint glimmer on the darkest horizon. Then you have the moon, which is beautiful, but it's a soft, reflected light. After that comes the sun, a powerful, direct, and brilliant illumination. And finally, the banners, a majestic, full-spectrum display of the entire system at peak power, just blazing across the sky.
Now let's map these lights to the actual mechanics of Tikkun. So dawn is the very first stirring of Malchut. That's the sphere that corresponds to our physical reality, awakening in the darkness. The moon stage is when our reality, Malchut, begins to receive and reflect light from a higher sphere, Tiferet, which is harmony. The sun represents a full-on influx of direct light from the highest attributes, like wisdom and kindness. And finally, banners, well, that represents the ultimate state, the complete integration of all the Sephirot into a perfected system, revealing the full divine order.
This really illustrates a core principle. Holiness, or Kedusha, doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It builds systematically. It happens in an ordered, sequential process. Each stage has to be fully established before the next one can even begin, kind of like building a foundation before you put up the walls. As you can see, it's a complete cycle, moving from that faint glow to a soft silver, a brilliant gold, and finally to a full-spectrum radiance.
To make this even more concrete, let's use a modern analogy. Think of redemption as a staged system boot sequence on a computer. The dawn is like the BIOS check. It's a low-level self-test that happens in the dark before anything even appears on the screen. The moon is the operating system kernel loading. The core subsystems are activating and starting to talk to each other. The sun is when the graphical user interface and all the services come online. The full power of the system is now accessible. And banners? That's peak performance. The system is running a complex task at 100% capacity, totally stable with all its lights blazing. Or if you're a gamer, think of it as leveling up in some cosmic video game. Dawn is like unlocking your first level 1 spell, a tiny little ability to push back the darkness. Moon is like gaining a group buff, where your power is now strong enough that it starts to reflect onto others and help them. Sun is when you unleash your ultimate ability, a massive, world-changing power. And banners blazing? Yeah, that's achieving God mode. The game world is perfected, and its ultimate purpose is finally achieved.
So why the gradual buildup? Why can't it just happen all at once? Well, it comes down to the huge contrast between 2 fundamental forces. As you can see here, Kedusha, or holiness, builds slowly, methodically. It creates stable, enduring structures, just like a sunrise. Klippah, impurity, is the exact opposite. It bursts forth suddenly, chaotically. It's unstable, parasitic, and ultimately just collapses in on itself, like a flash fire that burns super bright and then just vanishes. For redemption to be permanent, it has to be built slowly, allowing the vessels to adapt to increasing levels of light, without shattering all over again. So far, we've been talking on this grand cosmic scale. But here is maybe the most radical idea in this entire system. This process, it isn't just happening to us. We are not spectators. Humanity is the central engine of this entire cosmic repair project.
So the crucial question becomes, where do you fit into this cosmic drama? Are you just watching the sunrise, or are you one of the ones helping to bring the dawn? This mystical system says that every single human soul contains sparks from that original shattering, and that our actions are the primary mechanism for Tikkun.
And this reframes everything. The commandments, the mitzvot, they are not just rituals, they are precision tools for cosmic repair. Prayer and study, that's you aligning the Sephirot within your own soul to draw down divine light. Wrapping tefillin, you are physically binding your mind and your heart to this divine architecture. Observing Shabbat is like living for 25 hours inside a weekly simulation of the perfected, rectified world. And every single act of kindness you do, that's a direct mission to find a fallen spark of Chesed, the Sephirah of kindness, and elevate it right back to its source.
And what's the ultimate goal of this grand Tikkun? What are we building toward? It's to rebuild the entire system to a state where it can fully channel and reveal what are known as the 13 divine attributes of mercy, the absolute highest expression of God's compassion.
This is the ultimate state of unity, the total manifestation of God's oneness, or echad. It's that moment when the distinction between creator and creation, between the light and the vessel, just dissolves into a perfect, harmonious whole.
So let's end with this thought from Proverbs. The soul of man is a candle of God. In the context of everything we've just discussed, that takes on a profound new meaning, doesn't it? Your soul is a spark of that original light. Every thought, every word, every single action is a cosmic choice. You are either gathering the sparks and helping to advance the dawn, or you're contributing to the chaos and concealing the light. The choice to be an architect of redemption is given to each of us every single moment of our lives.
Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.